Good day, people. Neil here from this magical place, Unwanted in the mountains near Barcelona. This wonderful place inspired me to create this video in which I want to share an exercise for your mind, especially an exercise that should help you be more aware of your thoughts and the nature of your thoughts, if these thoughts are helpful in the situation in which you're in right now, or on the contrary, very destructive. So before I dive into the exercise, some words from when I was a kid back then. So as a kid, I was a master of imagination and creating what-if scenarios in my mind, but not these kind of what-if scenarios that are actually helpful. For example, when you want to create plans for the future and you ask yourself, my actions right now, are they helpful to create the future that I want to have, that I desire or not? No, I don't mean these what-if scenarios. I rather mean very quite impossible what-if scenarios and very destructive what-if scenarios. So for example, when I was alone in my apartment, I would create these stories how people would come to my door, break in, rob the apartment and do crazy stuff with me. For example, there are many other different types of examples. For example, I also had this that I thought my heart would stop beating and I would create stories in my mind how everything is connected and suddenly my breath would go crazy and I was kind of falling into a panic mode, right? So as a kid, I had these thoughts and these what if scenarios all the time in many different situations, and they were not only affecting my mood but also physical and mental health well-being and health, sorry. Also during my teens, I constantly had these thoughts, and of course still to this day they are part of my daily life, and I assume that many people experience the same thing, that you're sitting in a beautiful situation and all of a sudden something triggers you and you start with your mind to create these stories in your head, right? These very destructive potential stories. And exactly here I want to propose a way of noticing these thoughts and redirecting your mind so that these thoughts die out rather quickly and can't grow from the seed of a thought into a very dark and bad plant. So the first thing that I would propose is a meditation practice, because next to all the amazing benefits that meditation has on you, it is also a very nice tool to become more aware of the tendencies of your own mind. Meaning, when you sit there with your eyes closed, doing breath exercises, all of a sudden and all the time, your mind starts to create tricks and play certain images on you, and you wonder, what will I have for dinner? Or, oh, this sitting kind of hurts in my lower back, or there's this problem I have to do later. So your tendencies start to unravel themselves and reveal themselves in this meditation. And therefore this practice of meditation is super nice to be aware that you have these tendencies, that all of us are constantly being distracted by the mind, which is a tool, the mind, the rational mind, the thinking mind, right? But we can also get used by this same tool. And this is what happened to me as a kid, in the youth, and still now, if I'm not careful and aware, still happens a lot of times that I'm very much being used by this incredible tool, which is the mind, instead of the other way around, that I actually use it. So, number one, meditation in order to be more aware. Now, when you practice in this very isolated meditation, because meditation is very isolated, you sit and you actively say, I want to meditate. The next step would be to transfer the same idea into your daily life. So becoming aware and more aware with practice and time over your thoughts and the nature of your thoughts. So for example, you're sitting in a train and you're reading something, and then all of a sudden there creeps up a thought about a problem that you have, but you can't solve actually right now, but it is a problem that will only affect you in the next week or something like that. So your task then would be to actively say to yourself, well, there is this nagging problem, I can't deal with it right now, I have to deal with it next week, so I need to stop thinking about it. But actually, to stop thinking about something is rather hard, a very hard task. So if I say to you right now, do not think about a spider, all of a sudden a picture of a spider in your mind, right? So being able to control your mind is not really possible. So what else can we do then? when you are aware of these thoughts creeping up, it is your responsibility to shift the awareness to something else. And what I do and what I like to do is try to shift the awareness on a physical sensation, because as soon as I am more in my body, the mind usually starts to get more quiet. So, for instance, I'm sitting there and I'm having a thought. It could be any thought that is simply not fitting to the situation that I'm in right now. I am aware of this thought, not all the time obviously, but with practice more and more of the times. And I can say to myself, okay, there is this thought about a problem maybe that is affecting me next week. I do not want to think about it right now because I can't do anything with it. So what I try to do, I notice the thought and I create, for example, a breath pattern, and I try to be aware of that. And then after a while I let go and continue with my day. This could be one example. Another example could be that you simply, and this is very hard, but actively try to stop thinking about this thought. And for instance, sometimes you're having thoughts maybe about sexual desires in public spaces. Could be something like that. And you notice that, and sometimes, of course, it is nice to create fantasies and stories in your mind, right? But not all the time. Sometimes it's really not that suitable. So when that happens to me, when I have these tendencies, I notice it and I actively try to ask to myself, can I now let go of this thought? And sometimes this thought is so nagging that I really have to go to do something physical, like I proposed earlier, so that I can switch my attention. But also sometimes it's really enough, and this also comes with practice, to let go of that thought. And now, one very important thing for you right now. Many of us, I think, are addicted to what-if scenarios. So because I've done it over my lifetime, these negative what-if scenarios or imaginations so many times, that sometimes I don't even want to let go of them. So I'm having a thought, maybe a bad thought, and I'm creating like this downward spiral, and I'm willingly going there. And when I ask myself, can I let go of this thought? Sometimes the answer is, maybe I could, but actually I don't want to. Out of many reasons, because I want to feel bad for myself, or I want to get out of the situation that I'm in right now and really go down this emotional path because of self-pity or something like that. So one of the most important things is actively wanting to let go of these negative thoughts. And this is something that you have to practice, and I still have to practice for many more decades, and potentially and quite surely will never be done till the day that I die. So I have to really practice this over and over again. So quick summing up of what I have just said, we have these what-if thoughts, we have these imaginations in our mind, and the first thing is we need to be aware of them, otherwise they simply take over and the mind becomes this huge thing and controls us, which is not usually what we want to have happen to us, right? So meditation practices and using that throughout the day, having a thought, being aware of that thought. Now the second thing is, how can you change thinking about that? Because sometimes it's really hard to change it. Number one, you could go into your body, into a physical sensation, and stay with that for a little while, and then continue with your day. Or you could actively say, let go of that thought. Use this exercise with the thought in your mind that you need to let go and need to want to let go of that thought even, right? And this is something that sometimes is really hard for me. For example, as I've said to you before, the sexual desire. Sometimes the sexual desire in me is great, and I have these thoughts that come up. You go around the street, for example, here in Barcelona, and you see beautiful human beings, and you think, and you start thinking, and sometimes it's not appropriate, and sometimes you need to do something else with your mind. So actively you want to let go of these thoughts, and this is very hard sometimes. So you have my sympathy right here if you are feeling that is super hard. But I can only assure you, and I made this personal experience, that practicing this over and over and over again gives you really a free mind, a mind that can do many more things and really can enjoy the situation in which you're in right now. Because ultimately this is what is happening. You are in a beautiful situation and your mind creates problems. So all of a sudden this beautiful situation is not too important anymore, but your mind, your imagination, a problem that you can't fix right now. So with that in mind, it is a beautiful practice to be able to be more in the moment that we are in right now. I can now say in this beautiful yurt, the most amazing place I visited in a very long time, and still all of these thoughts come and they hinder me from really enjoying this place that I'm in right now. So this is my personal, very passionate topic that I wanted to share in this video. I hope you found something helpful here. Still, this is a practice that I need to refine for myself, obviously, and it will be a continuously process of refining and adapting and figuring out more. Yeah, that's it. If you have any more questions, please feel free to comment in this video. If you want to share this video to friends or people you know it could be relevant for, please do that. And all the best to you. Enjoy your time.